What's really happening to the decline in sales for Harley Davidson? Of course, a lot of the blame has to lay right in the laps of Harley Davidson leadership. But what is happening in the power sports industry? Let's chat and take a look at the decline in sales for not only Harley, but across the board in the power sports industry. Hello and welcome to Road Rush Nation. I'm Terry, your host here, and thank you so much for stopping by and checking out the channel. If you're a member of the nation, thank you so much. And if you'd like to be a member of the nation, it's free. All you need to do is hit that subscribe button and don't forget to hit the bell so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Well, this is a really rough time for Harley Davidson, and the decline of sales, the continuous decline of sales, has got to stop. The bleeding and hemorrhaging needs to stop for Harley to be able to survive. And of course, they're going through some really rough times with the change in leadership. And yes, you've got to blame Zeitz for some of the problems that they're having in the decline in sales. But there's also other outside factors that are happening. And I'm not talking political, I'm not talking about what's happening in Washington, D.C. This has been happening before all that. So let me kind of explain how I discovered this crisis within the power sports industry. Earlier this year, in fact in March, Aaron and I decided that we wanted to get a side-by-side to use on our property to help out with things, and it would also be able to fit in the back of our toy hauler when we weren't taking the bike. So we were kind of looking at different options. We are new to the UTV world, and so we went to our local Bass Pro Shop, which has their own brand that they had out. They had them on for sale, and those are the Tracker brand. You'll see them when you go into Bass Pro Shops or Cabela's. They were running this great special on them, so we went in there to check it out. We left there and said, you know what, we're just looking for a two-seater, not looking for a big, four-seater or anything like that. We thought, yeah, this is going to fit the needs that we wanted on our property. But we wanted to do a little research, and the sales and the manager there was great, gave us all this information about Tracker and what the accessories you could get and so on. Perfect. But we want to do a little more research. So we have a local Polaris dealer that we decided, let's go over and see what they have. Now these things start at around $15,000, okay? So they're comparable. I kind of compare them to Harleys just because of the price range. You can start way down here. You put all the accessories on that you want, and you're up here. But anyway, so we went to the local Polaris dealer to see what they had and to see their brands, not knowing much about them. And we started comparing what was available, and they're pretty much the same. It's more like, I would compare it going from Harley and looking at Indian. It's pretty much the same bike, just a little different do's and dads here and there, and different things that you can have on them. But if you love bikes, you love bikes. So the owner of the Polaris dealership was great about giving us all this information and giving us a quoted price. But as we were leaving the store, the owner says, hey, you do realize that the Bass Pro Shop Tracker, I'm trying not to get the names confused, Tracker is made by Arctic Cat. He says, you might want to see what they have going on in the news. And Aaron and I looked at each other and I went, okay, which means I'm going home and I'm doing my research. Well, Arctic Cat is owned by a company called Textron. Now, Arctic Cat, you've probably heard, they've been around for eons doing snowmobiles and so on. So I'm going, oh, Arctic Cat, that's got a good reputation, so I thought. And they do on the quality of their machines and so on. But Textron a few years ago decided that they wanted to jump into the power sports industry and bought Arctic Cat. Well, let me show you what I found out.
Tonight, really tough news in northern Minnesota. Hundreds of workers at Arctic Cat are losing their jobs.
Hitting the community hard. It's been a staple in Thief River Falls since 1962. Arctic Cat builds snowmobiles and all-terrain vehicles, but parent company Textron says sales have slumped.
Ben Henry talked with an Arctic Cat worker who got the bad news today.
Over time, it's easy for co-workers to become more.
They're like family to me.
For Christina Parsley, her work family for 30 years has been at Arctic Cat.
And it's going to be sad and hurtful to see that, to go away and not know when you're going to see these people again.
She's one of 385 workers at the Thief River Falls plant getting laid off, adding to the 65 let go in November.
It's hard. When they had the meeting with us today and gave us our notice, I wanted to cry, but I held back my tears.
Parent company Textron says manufacturing will end May 22nd, and those laid off can receive severance. They're thanking their employees, dealers, customers, and supporters for their loyalty, patience, and understanding as we weather the difficult conditions facing our business and our industry. Founded in 1962, Arctic Cat built snowmobiles and all-terrain vehicles, and the company became an economic pillar in the community.
A tough time for the city.
Thief River Falls Mayor Mike Lawrenson knows how much of an impact it's had.
This is a close community, and it's going to be painful for them, and we're going to need to gather together to see what we can do to help each other out.
The community of Thief River Falls for a long time really identified itself around Arctic Cat.
Republican Senator Mark Johnson represents the area.
We're hoping to come in and make it so that Minnesota is a place that can attract businesses, and hopefully we can find somebody that can really revive that label, that brand.
Is it a point of pride to work for Arctic Cat in the community there?
It is for a lot of people. A lot. It's going to be a very sad day and probably be shedding a lot of tears that day.
The powersports industry is in a tough spot. After a surge during the pandemic, sales slumped across the industry. Polaris, for example, another Minnesota-based company and Arctic Cat competitor, shared their sales in 2024. It shows that it was down 20% from the year before. Kevin and Lindsay, back-to-back winters with little snow did not help either.
Yeah, that's for sure. Thank you, Ben.
So basically, after I started looking at this, Aaron and I looked at each other and go, okay, this explains why we went to Bass Pro Shop. They only offered 2024s. They weren't going to make 2025s because the company was shutting down. Polaris was offering 2025s. So we went with the Polaris, I'm just going to be honest. And we're completely happy with what we got. But during that period of time, I started looking at, oh my gosh, what's really happening in the powersports industry? Because motorcycles are part of the powersports industry. And what I found out was not good. Basically, the powersports industry took off, like a lot of industries did, during COVID and did some great numbers. But now the world is kind of settling back down, and those sales are now in decline. I was looking at the trends, the data and the trends of what was really happening in the powersports industry. And I came across Mike, I call it Mike, Motorcycle Industry Council. Gotta look at my notes here. Motorcycle Industry Council, and their annual 2024 sales report had come out, and it wasn't good. They reported that motorcycle and scooter sales were down by 4.5%. Now this is across all the major brands, so if they're hurting, you know the others are hurting too. So this is not good. I even looked at Polaris, because Polaris is a really a major power sports industry competitor to Harley, and is not a broad power sports manufacturer. So I looked at Polaris's numbers because it would give the motorcycle, it would give the ATVs, the UTVs, and so on across the board, and I wanted to see what their sales were. Well, it wasn't good. They reported out on their Q4 had dropped. Their sales had dropped for Q4 and for FY24. And like I said, this is Polaris overall. So this is everything. And just the North American sales, which represent 84% of their overall sales and profit, it was decreased. Their sales decreased by 26% compared to 23. And 23 was up a little, and then it kind of flattened out, so it's still bad. I just wanted to bring this up to see, hey, the overall decline within the power sports industry is affecting Harley sales too. So we've got compounded problems going on with Harley, not just within the power sports industry, but the decision making at Harley. And right now there's a pretty good void, because the CEO, Zeitz, who is leaving, which is a good thing because he was not cut out for this position. He's great for shoes, not for the culture of Harley Davidson. And that board, there was a lot of infighting going on from investors and what decisions were being made. So it's in a little bit of turmoil. But it's going to be tough for them to be making these decisions and seeing how they're going to bring Harley forward, because when you're combating with your industry overall is down in sales and then you're having issues, this is going to be rough for Harley. Now, if you're looking for a new bike and you go into a dealership, be very patient, because what's going to happen, what I predict is going to happen, is those dealerships are going to really be fighting for that new bike owner, and there'll probably be some incentives out there for you to pick up a bike at a good price. But the used bike, that's the place to go, because you're going to see a lot of those used bikes coming in that'll have some great deals. I will tell you though, be careful when you're buying a used bike and find out where it's coming from, because there's a lot of bikes that have gone through natural disasters that may have some lingering issues you're not realizing are there. Anyway, hopefully you found this rather interesting, something to think about if you're out in the market to look for a new bike. Be patient, look around, compare, get the bike you want, don't just settle, and make them work for it. It's your money. They're not doing you a favor, you're doing them a favor. You're keeping them in business. Just remember that. Anyway, thanks again so much for stopping by. And if you'd like to be a member of the nation, it's free. All you need to do is hit that subscribe button and hit that bell. Ride safe, and I hope to catch you on the highways.